All right, so we know what matrices are. These are rectangular array of numbers, right? And we are familiar with them already. We are mathematicians. All right. I've told us that in doing anything in R, now, working with, if you want to create a matrix in R, there is a function called function matrix. Are we together? Now, so let's start. Again, you can use any of your best, maybe your name or anything. So I want us to, this person is using first math, right? So use whatever you want to use to assign whatever name to the new matrix, your first matrix that you want to build. You know how to assign now. Inputs that function takes. Are we together? Immediately you type matrix, already R is suggesting something for you. Is it not suggesting something? Are we together? It's suggesting something, isn't it? Once you type matrix, as you are typing matrix, R is bringing something out. Is it not bringing it out for you? It's bringing data, right? N row, N call. Is it not bringing that? Good. Those are the arguments. That is the things, the inputs that R takes. Now, we want to create a matrix. A 2 by 2 matrix. When we say a 2 by 2 matrix, how many elements are we expecting there? We are expecting 4 elements. So we want to put the elements there by ourselves first. So this one, data, represents the elements that you want to use to create the data you want to use to create your what? Your matrix. Or the vector you want to use to create your matrix. Pardon me. Are we together? Vector is a data anyway. Are we together? So the vector should be of length 4 because we are dealing with what? 2 by 2 matrix. All right. So, and we want it to be, the number of row, we want it to be 2. And the number of column, we want it to also be what? 2. All right. So run this and let's see what you have. If you have a matrix or not. Do you have it? Great. All right. Now, so the question will be, now if I have a matrix and I want to be able to specify the way it is arranged in the matrix, I want the entries to be arranged. How do I undo that? Because if you see this now, you didn't have a control over this. I'll just give you a matrix, right? Are we together? I'll just give you a matrix, isn't it? Now, if you want to do, I want you to do something for me. Go to where this matrix is before the parentheses. Put your cursor there. Again, R will display what is supposed to be inside the matrix. Put your cursor here, between matrix and the parentheses. Again, on top of it, you see R is displaying some things for you, right? Now, can you read what is there? Matrix. Data equal to by row. Did you see anything by row? It says by row what? First. So meaning that by default, the way R is programmed is that this number that you have should not be arranged by row, but rather should be arranged by what? Column. So when you have by row first, that means it should be by what? By column, right? So what R will do for you is that when you say 2 by 2, so by column, that means is you first of all arrange this, it to first pick the first column. So is to put on the first column, so let me have a marker. So on the first column, we are going to have what? -3, 2, and then the next one will be what? 8 what? 9, 3. Then 0.17. Is this what you have? Is this the outcome you have? Is this the outcome you have? Who didn't have this outcome? You didn't get this outcome. Because it said by row first is the by row. No, don't put it. You don't have to put it. By default, is by row first. So please help us check what this person is doing. Every other person got this. All right. So, because it's arranged by what? By colon. Are we together? Now, so we can as well determine other ways we want this thing to be arranged. So now let's put by row through the same matrix and see the arrangement. Now, we didn't specify before. So it will go with the defaults. So, but when you now specify, either you specify by row first, by row equals to first or not, it will take it like that. But if you still specify it as first, it will still take it like that. But because you can use that to change the arrangement. So if I put by row equals to true, let's see what happens. What do we have now when we say by row equals to true? So by row equals to true. Now we are expecting of the same vector that we created, that we used before. We had -3, 2, 8, 9, 3, and then 0.17, right? This is the vector we use. So because we said by row true, what is it going to do? It's going to first arrange it by row along the row. So it picks this by row. The next, the second row, 8, 9, 3, and then 0.17. Is this what you have? Good. So it's arranging it by row. Are we together? So those are the two ways by which you can change the direction or the way the matrix is arranged. All right. Now, another way we can do things is to do what is called row and column binding. Are we together? Now, just like you use matrix form function, we can also use the R bind function. It means row bind. It means what? Row bind. So if you have, for instance, 3, 4, 5, 6. So another way I can go is to create each of the rows differently and say, you know, this is row 1, isn't it? Are we together? So I may call it R1, for instance. Are we together? And say R1, you know, this is I can use sequence to create it, isn't it? Because it's from number 1 to, it's number 1 to 3. So I can say 1 equals to 1 to 3. We know what this will create for us. It will create number 1 to 3. I can use R2 to be what? 4 to 6. It will create number what? 4 to 6. So then I can row bind it. That is, bind the row. Bind them row wise. So if I say R bind, that means it should row bind it, right? If I say row 1, comma what? Row 2. Now do that and let's see what you have and run it. So we are expecting you to have this matrix. Sir? Yes, row bind R1, comma R2. That is, we want to bind row wise. Do we have that already? Do we have that done already? All right, great. Thank you. Somebody has gotten it. So we have this matrix, right? So you can also do column bind. The same way, let's say we go this way now. I'm not going to do this. I want people to think ahead for me. We have used R bind to mean row bind. So column bind, what would that be? C bind, great. And so what should be my column now? My C1 should be what? It should be what? 1, comma. My C2 should be what? So you have finished it and tell me what you have. Please In the next 1 minute, let's get that done. So colon 1, 1, 4, colon 2, 2, 5, colon 3, 3, 6, right? Now, colon bind everything, or bind everything colon wise. Still this matrix, still working with this matrix. We are still working with this matrix. So, and I want you to create this matrix using colon bind. This colon 1, create it. Colon 2, create the vector. Colon 3, create the vector, and then use colon bind to create that, to get that done. Do you have that done? Okay, great. Are people getting it? Are you getting what we are doing? Are you getting it? Eh? Please, we need that. If you need assistance, just wave your hand. Somebody will attend to you. You need assistance, just wave your hand. Please, every Icammda person who is here seated, go into the audience and help out, please. Ronke, please stand up, help people. Mercy, please go around and help people. All right, who has gotten it? Great. He's a fast learner. He's getting things very fast. You have gotten it. Thank you. That's good. All right, so we can move now. Now, I've told us that we can access content of vectors. So we can also access content of our matrices. Is that okay? So if you want to, for instance, access the first row, you know that for any matrix A, what is this? If I have A, B, what does this represent? What does this represent? What does this represent? Colon, right? So meaning that if I specify A is my matrix, and I specify 1, comma, I leave it empty. So what am I expecting to get here? This is going to select the entire row 1 for me. Is that okay? So can you try that? What do you have? That matrix you have created before, use the name and then try to get your row 1 out of it. Yeah? You got 1, 2, 3. That's great. What if you want to get the first column? Get the first. So if you want to get the first column, what should I do here? What should I do? That means I'm not going to specify anything in the column. Then in the row. Then in the column I specify what? 1. So do that. Do you have that done already? What do you have for column 1 of your matrix? 1,4. That's great. That's lovely. All right. So you can select any row or any column. Now, if I now specify this, A11, what am I saying? That means row 1, column 1. This time around, I'm expecting just an element, isn't it? Because it's already specific to a point. That is the first row and first column. That's just going to be one element. What is that? 1. That's equals to 1. Thank you. We can also check the diagonal. Can you check the diagonal of your matrix by taking the dag? Yeah. Check. Can you extract the diagonal of your matrix? Extract the diagonal of your matrix. 1, 1,5. All right, that is because you also know that's not a square matrix, right? So it's just taking the first two. Okay, thank you so much. So we move on for want of time. Okay. We have looked at all this. Okay. Yeah. This is about omitting and overwriting. Well, okay, no problem. Let's quickly look at that. Sometimes you observe that you want to assess, you want to get your matrix without, for instance, now look at this one, matrix A, and I do comma minus 2. What is this saying? That means I need my matrix without the second column. So this minus means what? Without. Are we together? That is omits the second column. So if you do this now, it's going to omit the second column. Can we try that and run it? So it will give you the first and the what? It will give you the first and the third column. So it would have omitted the second column out of it. Did you get that? All right, that's great. Also, supposing that you observe that, okay, this particular row 2, for instance, it may be row or column, you put something wrong there, you want to change it. What do? You can as well do this, the same thing that you are doing, you want to replace. So I now have A, but I want my row 2 to be replaced. So again, I will replace it. I will define another set of, another vector. For instance, C146. So what happens? Run that and see what happens. Our A, your matrix that you have been using, specify that row 2 of it. This is the row 2, right? You want to replace it. You want to replace it by another set of numbers. And you are specifying the numbers you want to use to replace. So once you specify this, it goes there and overrides what you had before. Sir? It's less than and which is ought minus that I mentioned yesterday. Now, one good thing in Thur, let me say to us, that you can do, so that the steps you are taking, sometimes you are done learning, you want to go back and remember what you did. You can write notes in R, and it will not interfere with your codes. So you can use hash to do that. Anytime you type hash, anything you write in front of it, it's not going to be executed as a code. It will just be kept as a comment. So you can write comment so as not to forget what you have done. For instance, when you do this now, you can state there that to overwrite or to replace this. Yeah. So when you go back to your code, you can remember what you have done earlier. All right. Thank you so much. Let's move on. All right. So I would want to move faster because of our time. We have looked at this already, overwriting and rewriting. All right, so I move on to data frame. Now, let me say to us that we know that when you have a single number, you are dealing with one dimension, right? Are we together? So, now in terms of dimension now, when you are, for instance, you have specified your A to be equals to 2. That's just a single number, right? So that's of dimension. Yeah, it's scalar. Sorry, it's not. It's a scalar. It's not vector, right? It's a scalar, right? All right. But when you have this, for instance, thank you, Prof. You have a 1, 3, 5. This is what? What do we say this is? This is a vector, right? Are we together? Then we have we now have next matrix and what? And data frame, which are not just, this is not just vector, this is a vector in one direction. Are we together? Are we together? Now we can have vector in 2 dimensions, which is what we have as matrix, right? Vector in 2 dimensions in the row and the what? Column. The same thing happens to what? To your to data frame. So later we look on to another one that you call array. Array gives you in 3 directions, in 3 dimensions. Are we together? Okay, but let's look at this data frame. Now, I'm only going to look at one aspect of this because of what I want to link up with later. Now, in Thur, we can create data directly, and we can also import any data that you have from external file, and of different types of files, you can import it into Thur, and then you use it. Are we together? All your data. We have been talking about data. And when you get data, you get it in different formats. As a CSV file, as an Excel file, as data file. Are we together? You get them in different formats. And you may want to read them into Thur. That's one thing. But you can as well, maybe you go to field, and then you have collected data. You want to impute it, though it's straight in Excel, but you can also do that in Thur. So let's create this data frame, which we call my data. Let's see my data. Are we together? So this data called my data. We are calling it my. You can call it maybe Shade data, Lola data, Akin data. You may want to put your name. Sir? Yes, it can. Yes. So just call this function called data frame, type data.frame. Once you put it, again, the argument will suggest something to you. Right? Good. It's expecting the vectors that you want to use to create the data frame. Are we together? So now the first one is what? These are characters. And when you are you want to put create character vector, you must put each of those characters into quotation. Are we together? So that's why you are seeing Peter inside quotation, Lois inside quotation,